So silent thus far because I'm a little bit intimidated by this. Mainly because I felt I did so well yesterday and I don't want to screw up today. And it's a face that's at a starker angle, more angular features, deeper shading. It's very different to the things that I've been drawing so far. Also, I'm not sure what I'm going to do about the hair yet, but first let's worry about getting it all on the page. So, let's tilt the camera down a little. I noticed that there's kind of a... This is Lucy Darling, by the way, stage name of Carissa Hendrix, a magician. This doesn't count as a magic friend because I barely know her. I'd argue that I don't know her at all, but I listen to her podcast. This is kind of a... You see that there's this kind of inflection here where you have a flat line across the top that curves down. And a steeper angle here, and this comes all the way down, a real wide curve, and in there. Today's ambience, by the way, is old library sounds, so it's like meant to be a rainstorm in a library, or outside of a library, I guess. Now this comes down here and it comes down lower than this. So the hair shape is kind of like that, with a curl at the bottom. That might be too deep, thinking about it. Like if you consider a line across there, that's going to be my eye line, where the hair meets the face. And there's a central, slightly curved line from where the eyes go. Above that is sort of the line of the see that's not even curved, that's practically flat, because that's the angle that the camera's at. Thinking about the 3D-ness of it, if this was a cylinder, you would have a flat line and then a curved line for the eyes. Is that enough room for the... Yeah, I can make that fit. So there's this very sort of strong curvature here for that bump on the face, the brow area. I'm not entirely sure if her head does actually have that prominent a brow. I think maybe the hair is defining some of that, but we'll get to that later. Meanwhile, over on this side, this kind of comes down and inwards. Now the centre line about here meets the chin, up like so. Then we have now you see I've already made a mistake somewhere, because if I define this as a centre line, the distance between the nose and that cheek and the nose and this cheek is like, it's double. That should be twice as far. So from there to there should happen twice, so that shouldn't happen until there. So the neck should come to here. So I've brought this either out not far enough or in too far, or that's in too far, and I think that that's in too far. That should be there. Snap decisions from me. So if we call that the centre line of the face, pretty much hits the chin. Yeah, about on that curve actually, because the chin's tilted slightly. So I think we're okay for that. Then you have less prominent a cheekbone than that. Just it's like a smooth curve. Maybe just a little bit of cheek just there, like so. Yeah. Then this sort of curves slightly where the chin meets it, and then up in a curve here to where the hair comes in. So you've got the lower cut of the hair that comes around here. The neckline kind of comes well, there's a front neckline and there's a back neckline. So this curve is sort of there. Flatten that off. I know that the very worst part of what I drew yesterday was the curls on the outside of the hair, so I'm hoping to do a little bit better on that today. Especially since if I'm going to capture this structure, I feel like that should be about that large. That should come out of it. Slightly larger there, slightly larger there. This flatness, that's not because she's got a flat head. This is a wig that she wears. So that doesn't actually end up over the centre line. The parting's kind of there. It's not really going to be visible. There's not going to be a line here because all the hair comes out from that at this kind of angle. And then sort of leading into a curve there. There's like a curl. There's like a little curl there and then a curl that comes in around here. Almost all the way in on itself. It then meets up with the curls that come here. And that's pretty much defines the shape of the hair. We have one big curl here, one big curl here. Over this side, it just kind of comes into the contour, like it tangents out on that line. And then this bit comes down here, and that disappears to shadow. We'll worry about that later. So this is the center line of the face. Yeah, that's now looking a lot better actually for where that should go. No, it never gets that flat. It never gets that flat. Like I say, it's a worry because you never want to get worse. I had a day when I got worse and it was really sad. So if I have a day when I do really, really well, it's really annoying because I feel like I have to do better the next day, or at least as good. But of course, if you had a really good day, being that good again might be really difficult. So here we are. So the eye line does curve up a bit, but maybe not quite as high as I've drawn that. This first eye, it kind of doesn't make it all the way to the centre line. It's sort of an arch like so, and actually quite a prominent arch on both the up and the down. But not a symmetrical arch like I've drawn here. It really does come further over this way before it comes back down. So that kind of shape. And here it comes down quite far before it starts to curve back up. So it's kind of like that. Using the eraser a lot more today because I used it quite a bit yesterday and I felt like that gave me a pretty good result. So every day I'm basically just second guessing myself. Now the curve of the nose, this little bump here gives me a telegraph for where that should go under. So there's kind of a rounded bell there. This then comes in wait, it's too long. It's one of the bad habits that I have because that little inflection, this cheekbone here, if we draw that line across, that should really only just cut the bottom of the nose there, and there should be a sort of bulb there to that kind of shape. Now this comes in there and ends. You can't see that rear side nostril at all. But it does almost kind of connect to the philtrum, which is weird. Again, I've not given myself enough space for a mouth here. Because that is there's nothing there compared to what's above. Am I still drawing the nose too low? I am still drawing the nose too low. Stop elongating noses. That nose shouldn't come to any further than there, really. But then that does look too short. Maybe it's actually that I'm doing the entire face too short. So this curve comes in here. What if that was a bit longer? Oof. I'm having a real second guess day today. I'm going to check that I'm actually recording. That's actually recording. You know what, let's worry about the other eye first. So there's kind of a vast expanse over towards this eye. And this is a much more symmetrical curve. Has a bit of this going on near this last curl. So it's also quite a lot wider than that because of the foreshortening. So this kind of comes over like so. About to the same height. It's only really the corner that's higher. And this is a much shallower curve. But again, it goes to about the same depth. It really looks like a shallower curve because it's the same height, but it's longer. And then, of course, we have this brow comes up all the way to here, and that's literally just like it's a very clean brow line, It looks wrong, but I think that when I draw the other one in, it will all match up. Hopefully. It has this kind of... starts low, gets high, and then comes to sort of meet that at an almost horizontal. Yeah, so it's that horizontal bit that I'm not getting right, because it comes in like that, is the curve. And that starts out real thin at this side. Again, on this side we have kind of an upper and a lower line to that. Brow starts about level, arches upward, and it literally disappears into the hair, but I've not drawn this curl large enough. Or perhaps I've not drawn it far enough over because it should come all the way to here. So it's over to about there. Very round pupils, and they don't, except what this one actually does. This one comes into here. You can just see that edge of it. Very clean, very head-on looking pupil in the iris. Yeah. But there's a kind of, you see, what I've done here, that should be lower, because that should also be a little lower. Yeah. Because this is quite a sharp up and down, but that actually comes in lower like so. When I come through to drawing that's going to be really interesting. That pupil is meant to touch the actual line of the eye itself. Because I've not quite drawn it large enough. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Slight line there. Probably won't draw it, that's just for me. So let's get back to this nose that we were having so much trouble with. I did think that the chin was maybe... Yeah, because look, this curl here that I've drawn, I've come down here and I've followed where this kind of traced the path of this, and it's not even nearly low enough, this chin. I've made the face too short. Which is weird because I have a tendency to lengthen things. Maybe what I've done this time around is, in a panic about over lengthening, I've over shortened. So let's get that cheekbone in there, come all the way down to here, and then there's that steep fall off for the chin, which curves on that centre line. Comes up slightly and it's... Don't draw it too sharp. Give a ridiculously sharp chin, you won't like that. And then there's kind of a almost dimpled chin. So there is a dimple there. But again, I'm not sure if I'll draw that. Although that line would give the effect, just a little line there would do the biz. So that would mean that the nose would end there, placing the mouth between kind of here and here. And yeah, so if we have the chin there, that shaded area on the chin pretty much meets up with the mouth, which comes to about here. Philtrum here, nose here. I was completely correct the first time with the size of the nose. This comes down to that central line. Philtrum there, Philtrum there. They don't curl in towards each other, that's practically a straight line on each side. That then gives us a good centre point for where the lips come out from. Now these are very three-dimensional lips, because the curve of the mouth itself kind of comes all the way up here. So it's like if you consider the edge of the nose over this side, and there's also a nostril here. So you have that. Now the invisible line from that would lead down to here, which is where the mouth would go to. Oof. The mouth would come up to here-ish, and then we have a very... And there's like a bump there and it comes down. And then this comes up here and then almost immediately comes down to where the lip is. Like so. This then has a really deep curve there, which meets up to this one here. I feel like that needs more of a curve to define that part of the lip. Now Lucy has quite sharp features, so there is a danger of this. If I define those features too much, there is a danger of her looking kind of wicked stepmother, because that's kind of what people associate sharp features with sometimes. So I have to be very careful to make sure that the features, though sharp, are never overly defined. So the neck actually comes down here really, and that extra line comes about there. You can just see the edge of the ear, but I'm not going to draw that. That's going to be disappeared into the hair. And I think with that, that brow does look like it's arching too much. I think it is level though. That's where it goes to. Minor change of this eye actually comes slightly lower, as does this one. That is practically flat at the bottom there, so this eye line needs to come all the way down to here. And I think that kind of almost defines the shape of her eyes, the fact that it comes down to that sort of level. On both sides. Anything else? This is a little higher. That nostril actually comes over that curve of the nose more. That lip's not close enough to that line of the face. I've not gone far enough with this. Yes, this side of the mouth looks wrong because I've not gone far enough with it. It should actually be closer to sort of, it practically touches there, like that. It's a much deeper curve. When it comes to sort of here. Not talking very much on this one because I feel like I'm gaining a bit more concentration in some of these lately, which, you know, it can only be a good thing. Ooh, that looks real wrong. That looks really wrong. It looks even worse than it did before now. Why is that? It's because now that I've moved that further over, this central part needs to be further over as well. And that's real sharp there. So I'm doing the lines too hard because what happens is every time I draw a faint line to get a vague idea, and then I draw a harder line over the top to sort of cement it in. And if I've got that wrong, I'll draw an even harder line over the top to then correct where the first line went wrong. And it ends with this almost like the line that I'm drawing is way too hard for what I'm doing. So it's the fact that that is pointing straight into that edge when it shouldn't do. It should actually come down and go like almost up into that. Because this lip is slightly further than that one. Oh, why doesn't it look right? Why does that not look right? Or does that look right and I just can't see it? You see, because this is a mess here now. This is an absolute mess because I've got 3 or 4 attempts at this line. And I don't know which one to do in the final ink. That is not a straight curve. There's almost like an angle there. There's like a sort of where it breaks. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So this hair comes up to this. It all works towards this central point above this eye. So everything comes up to here. And these are all curling in this way. Right to about this point where it almost seems like a straight line. And then here yeah, it's all straight lines up until this curl, which then kind of joins there. There's a bit more of that comes round. Interestingly, this part, it sort of comes up slightly, comes down to here, and then another curve takes over. So when we come to draw the hair, I think what we're going to do is do an outline first, and the outline is going to cover these main contours along here, 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 that one there, and this curl here, which is a very shallow kind of curl, and comes in there. The neck goes behind it. This isn't quite even. I feel like I want to capture that it's not quite even. There's a sort of more naturalistic edge to it. I'm not going to shade this one. I know that the temptation with this strong shading here is to shade the image itself, but I think that's a really bad idea. Okay. How far in are we? 27 minutes and it's ink time. I'm still using the Sharpies. I know I said that my new pens had arrived, and they have, but I haven't even uncapped them yet. So I feel like I want to draw these eyes first, because these eyes are properly defined with eyeliner all the way around, and I feel I need to capture that first and foremost. So there's that eye there, and this eye here, I'm going to turn the page again. It has again that sort of wider appearance. That is going to have to do. I want to capture the lips next, just because there's a I'm not going to do that next. I'm going to do the nose next, because there's this nice curvature here which I feel like if I can capture it right, it'll sort of pull the rest of it together quite a lot. And that comes down just a wee bit there. Let's get some profile in. I hate drawing lines that are too long. I think that's partly nothing to do with like fatigue on the hand or anything, but it's because when drawing on like a computer, if you've ever done any computer-based artwork, the longer you go without lifting the mouse off, the more you have to undo if you get something wrong. I think that's partly what kind of does me in with it. It's even though I don't have an undo feature here. I've drawn too many lines on this brow. I'm not sure where it actually goes. It's definitely the flattest of the lines on top, with the archiest of the lines on the bottom. Like that. So I know what's wrong with the mouth. I'm going to fix it in the ink. Yes, I think I solved it. I think I fixed it. I think that is good. Don't ask me why I think that is good, but I think that I fixed that. So the outer, we're going to do the outer forms of the hair first, weren't we? Starting with, that's way too high. This should be more like down here. Let's go all the way into there. And then this part, a wide arch that comes down to there. Realised that the neckline should have cut this curl off. That's what that is. Well, I guess this goes in front of the neckline in my drawing. This now comes up here. Just about touches that and then flattens out. The neck goes up through that. Meets up with a curve that goes to here. This curl is too low. How am I going to fix it? I'm going to fix it by bringing it into there. It's not accurate, but it's what I've got. In fact, none of these curls are accurate because I've just realised they're not really tight enough. They really need to come in way tighter than they have done, because I need to do a few more inner lines on these. These all need to come way, and these need to go right up to cover the shape of it. This one that comes all the way down from the parting here, curls up to there, but then the other side of this just kind of vanishes into the waves, and this curl, there's kind of a there's a sense of a curl down here, but then this one curls up into it. I am so bad at hair. See, that's everything up until now. I've done these like masses of, just either masses of straight lines or masses of curly lines, because they've been dark-haired characters or people, I guess. Right. I really need to look up how to represent hair of this kind of, you know, if you're not just making it all dark so you can kind of hide lots of errors in it, how do you actually make hair look like hair? Is it just like hatching? Is it like trying to take lines to tangents of different lengths? So I'm going to draw in this hairline now. To there. Now I know for a fact that because I'm going to have lines that come up to show the directionality of that, indeed that has to come up to there. Maybe a few lines here. I know I need a few more that come down this way to kind of show that it curls that way. It's all about trying to indicate flow, I think. It's the problem, you're trying to stylize it, but the style that you're trying to draw is your own style. Like, I'm not trying to make this look like the work of another artist, I'm just trying to make it look like Lucy Darling. So, there's no use trying to look up how other artists have drawn Lucy Darling, because A, probably very few have. Right, so I'm literally turning it upside down to try and use the curvature of my hand to get a nice I feel like I want to do something to darken the brows, but these are very elegantly coiffured. So this comes down here and we have that kind of again, that curl should be above this shoulder, but it's not because of the way that I've drawn it. So I'm going to draw the shoulder coming over this way. What actually happens where that curl meets that one? They're kind of... This one kind of comes over it. Oh god, that's a really weak line. The same thing happens with all of these. Like each curl needs to kind of tangent off against, well, not tangent off, but it needs to be perpendicular to something else to give it like an end point. Otherwise it just looks like a globe of hair, like a big oozy glob. And there are no oozy globs. They are loose curls. Oh, that's why she's called Lucy. I get it, yeah. Now I'm starting to think that these tangent lines that I drew were actually, in these places, they were mistakes because they don't follow the flow of the hair. So if I continue that one over to that, I'm starting to make sense of this now. I'm starting to make sense of this hair. So in each location, we just need to show the hair disappearing behind another area of hair. And it all makes sense. So long as it has somewhere to go, it makes perfect. It almost looks braided in areas actually, which is a mistake, but at least it's going somewhere. Don't want to add too much to this. That's always the danger, is adding too much. I think we're done. Do I want to add those philtrum lines? I feel like I want to add just the touch of that one. And maybe just a wee bit of that one. Just to sort of speak the lines out. But I think that's done. I think I can live with that. Yeah. Yes. I am good with that. I'm just gonna, so these hairs don't really have anything to cut them off. I think that just a little extra there gives them form, gives them a shape. A couple of stray lines, but I'm good with that. I'm okay with that. Oh, should I? Yes. Because she has put in the effort to accentuate her lashes. It would be rude not to actually, notice that. A little bit on the lower line as well, actually. Yeah, let's erase some pencils and see how it looks. Not too happy with the mouth. Need to do more mouth studies. I've spent all this time working on improving noses. Possibly a little bit too pointed on that nose actually, but... And nah. Let's wait until I've erased all the pencils before we go in making additional inks. Tiny little eraser on the back of this pencil is doing some seriously heavy lifting this month. I'm going to need something bigger, I'm sure of it. I have something bigger, I just need to dig it out. This may be the last image that this tiny little eraser can handle, because the last thing I want is for it to get down to the metal and scratch a big gap out of the picture. That would just be the worst. Yeah, not pleased with the hair up here. I feel like I should have done bigger curves and not tried to fold it in on itself. So that's a mistake. You know, I almost feel like a few, pencil first, I feel like just a few lines here. It's so dangerous to suggest because then I'll end up adding them in and they'll look terrible. But just a little definition to the lip I feel would help that. See, sometimes what happens is there are things that the pencils add that you don't notice. And it's only when you take the pencils out that you realise that they're now missing. So I'm going to add in just a few little things. This mouth actually extends a tiny way beyond that. On both sides, actually. Yes, that helps. And I'm going to add those in as well. Against my better judgment, I'm just going to touch them in there. Yes. That's a damn nice image, if I do say so myself. If you ignore that part, it's okay. I don't think you can tell it's her. I think you can. Maybe a few, just because she's got this, I don't even know if her eyes really that colour. That sort of green in the eyes, because you know she goes in with the wig. I wouldn't put it past her to have contacts as well. Yeah. Now it's done. Wicked awesome. See you tomorrow.